Hi, good afternoon. I'm Stand Up, and I wanted to talk to you about an article, just share an article with you. And as I read this article, it definitely made me feel like they are facing the same thing that R. Kelly is facing. And there was an uprising in a St. Louis County jail, the CJC, and Erica Wurst, she is a deputy district defender in St. Louis, and she has a client there that she wanted to go and see, and she wanted the client not to be placed in protective custody. The victim in the case is related to corrections officers, but since it's the guards he's concerned about, not other detainees, he thinks PC, protective custody, will make him feel less safe. And her client is accused of murder. So Carson, who is a superintendent at the workhouse, Jeffrey Carson, he felt that the inmate is playing the attorney, and he even wrote, hopefully she doesn't bring him contraband, because the correction employee at the workhouse wrote back after deputy district defender sent an email wanting to set up a meeting between the public defender and her client. But again, Carson, who was the superintendent at the workhouse, he stated, allegedly, he's accusing deputy district defender Worst of, being played by this inmate. And then he's also throwing out, like an accusation that he doesn't know is true, and he's saying hopefully she doesn't bring him contraband. And I thought that was pretty disrespectful, and it's also very unprofessional, because that's a statement that you're making, and you're actually not even giving the benefit of the doubt, and you're not even respecting the fact that a lot of people want to do their job correctly and ethically. They're ethical in their jobs. So why would you want to automatically accuse someone, of wrongdoing? So she was not pleased, and I don't blame her. She was not pleased. And so she said, here was this man in charge of keeping her client safe. A client who, like most people in the city's 2 jails, is being held there. He's being convicted of a crime. And Carson was dismissing his concerns out of hand while also accusing Worst of a crime. So what she did is she actually wrote back. She actually wrote back and copied the judge in her case, in the client's case. She actually wrote back and she copied the judge. And she says, I'm sure you know that a correction officer at CJC was recently charged with facilitating a pretty brutal assault on a detainee there. I find it hard to believe that you really can't see why he would be afraid for his safety at MSI. Truly, I am shocked at how quick you are to dismiss our concerns about this. It is your job to make sure detainees there are kept safe and well cared for. So please do your job and take our concerns seriously. Worst shared the email stream with me after the latest uprising at the CJC, the 4th incident since December in which detainees got out of cells with broken locks and took over a floor of the facility. On Easter, they destroyed property, broke windows, and lighted fires, while some chanted, "We want court dates." Now, when I say me, she's saying me as in Matthew Mahaffey, who is her district defender. He's a district defender, but he's her boss. She reports to him. Okay, so this is a reference to an issue that Worst and her boss, district defender Matthew Mahaffey, have been raising for several months with circuit attorney Kimberly Gardner. Now, I've never met Gardner before, Kimberly Gardner, but I am aware of her because I'm originally from, Missouri. I'm from there, and I have family that live, in Missouri. So I am very well aware of, what, kind of goes on, because I keep in contact. And so Circuit Attorney Kimberly Gardner, the judges of the 22nd Circuit Court, and appeals judges. So this is what her boss, District Defender Matthew Mahaffey, is talking about with Deputy Defender Worst. Because and the reason why I'm bringing this article to you is because, like I said, it made me think about Mr. Robert Kelly. And I'm going to get to farther into this story. And it says it's an issue that began pre-pandemic. So even with R. Kelly, he's been incarcerated and this is prior to his incarceration, is prior to the pre-pandemic. So defendants are being held in jail. So listen to this closely, because I'm sure you're going to be able to figure out why this article relates so much with R. Kelly to a certain extent. It says defenders are being held in jail for, in some cases, 6 months or longer without a preliminary hearing. The two issues: dismissing detainees' complaints about conditions enforcing long pretrial confinements that appear to violate a recent Missouri Supreme Court rule change, are related. So think about that. How long has Mr. Kelly been locked up? And they've been pushing back his court dates. Excuse me. So in March, the state's high court said defendants must have a preliminary hearing within 30 days. Those hearings are the defendants' first opportunity to face the evidence against them, but it still isn't happening in many cases. Judges, prosecutors, jail administrators, they all seem to be just looking for reasons not to believe what our clients say about the conditions in the jail. And we know that in a lot of jails, there are poor conditions. And, there's a lot of unethical things that go on, behind prison bars and walls. And so the long pretrial incarceration periods, while cases wait for a probable cause finding, comes down to the exact same thing. They don't value our clients. They don't value the clients' they don't value the clients' lives enough to make sure the prosecutors actually have enough evidence to warrant keeping them confined, to warrant them losing their freedom, to warrant them losing their jobs, to warrant them losing their homes, and to warrant them losing their families. That's very interesting, because it appears that, R. Kelly has been incarcerated for over a year, going on 2.5 years. It's really been a while since he has been incarcerated. And it's like they're finding, reasons to keep the inmates locked up, but yet and still they don't have a probable cause. So they just don't value these clients. They don't value the men that are incarcerated, because if they did, they would do better and follow laws to make sure that these men are getting their make sure that they're being heard and getting their court dates. And that's why they were chanting, "We want court dates." And it goes on to say that the public defender's office filed a writ asking the Court of Appeals to enforce the 30-day rule. So in the case in question, there was a person, Graylin Lindsay, had been held in the City Justice Center without bond for more than 90 days. So this is another inmate that has been held in the CJC, the City Justice Center, for more than 90 days. And Associate Circuit Court Judge Michael Colonna keeps granting continuances because the prosecuting attorney's office says it's planned to seek a new indictment through a grand jury. That's a long-standing practice in the city. So again, that's some unethical stuff going on with this attorney, prosecuting attorney, and he's filing all these continuances, and the judge is granting them, which is very, it just doesn't seem right. And he's saying he's going to seek a new indictment, and that's really only, what that he's doing? He's just finding a way to get around, finding a way to get around the law is what he's doing. He's finding a way to get around the law. That's exactly what he's doing, finding a way to get around the law. And it's really, unethical, but it's also like violating these inmates' civil rights when you're doing that, because if you're going to seek a new indictment, you should seek a new indictment. And it just seems like when I think about Mr. Kelly, it's like they keep trying to find more evidence to add to his indictment so that they would have something. And it doesn't appear to me that they really have anything. They're trying to get stuff, but they don't. And so they keep, how they were suppressing the evidence and they didn't want to give the discovery to, his attorneys. That's wrong. We know that's wrong. If you have a strong case, you need to give the information to the legal team so that the defendant rights is not violated, his civil rights or the client's civil rights or inmate, however you want to look at it, is not violated. Civil rights are not violated, you know, giving the discovery so that the case can get moving, get the show on the road. Because here is Mr. Kelly has been incarcerated, over what, 2 years, almost 2 years, over 2 years. And they've been doing some things too and pushing his case back and back and back and back. And they say it's going to happen in August. Well, you know what? I would say, just like you hear schools say, well, and events that are going on, say, providing the pandemic and COVID regulations. So I'm going to say that I'm not going to believe any of that until I see it. And so it goes on to say that, but there is no statutory grand jury docket like the one that Kelowna has created, the writ argues. Lindsay is accused of felony domestic violence and being a felon in possession of a gun. He has an extensive record and, according to court records, suffers from serial mental issues. So 110 days will have passed since Relator's initial appearance without any preliminary hearing. And this is an inmate that's there. And Relator will have been confined in jail the entire time. So he needs to get some mental health, which it doesn't appear that they have given him that. And this is the writ filed by Public Defender Brendan Cottonsteady. There is no basis in law for either grand jury docket or for respondents' refusal to hold preliminary hearings in cases filed by criminal complaint where the circuit attorney announces an intention to seek an indictment. So Gardner and the judges have defended the current preliminary hearing process. Previous writs filed by the Public Defender's Office have failed. This is the first filed since the new rule took effect in March. Justice is not holding a man. So this is what they're saying. This is the argument. And they're saying, and I agree with this, justice is not holding a man in need of mental health care in jail indefinitely because at some time in the future, the prosecutor promises the judge to find another way around a court rule intended to protect the civil rights of a defendant. That, you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's not justice. It's like violating the civil rights of these inmates. And believe it or not, even though you are incarcerated, you're an inmate, you still have civil rights. You still have rights, and your civil rights should not be violated. They should, the prosecution, the judges, all of them should be following the law. They should be following the law to make sure that these inmates get court hearings in a timely manner within the law. And it says within 30 days. And we understand the pandemic, but it doesn't appear that they are using the pandemic as an excuse. What they're doing is that the prosecutor is like he's finding a way to get around the law, and this particular judge keeps on granting continuances. And the judge needs to be called out on his nonsense because he should stop doing that. Judge Kelowna is his name. He needs to stop doing that. Court Judge Michael Kelowna needs to stop granting continuance. He needs to tell the prosecutor, if you are not going to file a new indictment within a time frame, then we need to release him. Release him either on bond or on his own recognizance, but you need to release him. These judges need to start doing their job, because to me, it seems like we have a lot of judges and district attorneys that are just acting unethical. And it's really a sad situation for inmates that need to have due process. And it just appears, even though they don't say it in here, that the civil rights and the due process is not being followed, and you are violating these inmates' civil rights. And I certainly feel that Mr. Kelly's civil rights and amendments have been violated. And I just, it's so sad. This whole thing around his case is just so much. I couldn't even begin to tell you everything. I mean, I know a lot about it, but I don't know a lot about it. I know more about what's wrong, with what's been happening to him and the unfair and the injustice. But could I tell you about the people, a lot of the people that are involved that was in his camp? No, but the women that have come out and spoke out against him, I can say that I don't believe them. It sounds very, very fishy and suspect and made up, and common sense tells us that a lot of the stuff just isn't the truth, especially when they've been on different platforms, and then you have other people getting involved and making up stuff and coming on their platforms and admitting that they convinced people to lie and got people to lie, because they were being paid off. And then you have, the parents making up stories and then wanting to attack everybody on social media and acting like they don't have an opinion, but that person is the only one that has an opinion, even though he has a criminal background. There's so many people with criminal backgrounds, and they got the plank in their own eye, and they're sitting up here judging this man and wanting to see that this man never gets, never sees, freedom. But yet and still, they got a whole bunch of nonsense going on in their own lives that's not right. And they've broken so many laws and collected money they shouldn't have collected, and people can't track it. So I think it's a great idea. Shout out to Daddy Lolo that he's going, seeking, he's promoting, that the money is sent to, sent where it can be tracked. There's a good tracking mechanism in place, so that if you send money and it doesn't get there, you have a way of tracking it. So I think it's good news. If you really are for Mr. Kelly, then you'll be for him. Whether you can go to a protest or not, you can give, you can speak out on your platform, you can help contribute in some kind of way. And then we have nobody's anything. The video that she was asking that you do a video why you support Mr. Kelly, why do you feel he's innocent? However, but it's just, her, giving to to the cause, and it's not just about Mr. Kelly though. We have to also make sure that we are talking about injustice against all people, all Black people that are facing injustice, because it's not just R. Kelly, it's a lot of Black men and women, and especially Black men, they're facing injustice. So we have to make sure that we don't make it about one person. We make it about the whole purpose is about the injustice of everyone that's facing it. But could we support where we can? Absolutely. So I understand the concept of supporting, Mr. Kelly and arranging it, because it's such a unique case. Mr. Kelly's case is very, very unique. In all the years that I've been living and understanding, these, lawsuits and people committing crimes and people are being found innocent and being, where they have been, convicted wrongly, and, they've been vindicated, or, like the video I did on a man that served 44 years in prison, and he was convicted of rape and he was innocent. And the police department, they intentionally suppressed the evidence. And so he was convicted wrongly. And now he's out. And they want to put a cap on the money that they pay him. And the law says that it's $50,000 every year. So when you look at the judicial system and the racial disparities and the legal disparities and the judicial disparities surrounding Black men, it continues to happen. And so we do need to speak out. And when I get articles like this, I'm going to bring more, I'm going to bring this to your attention, because it really spoke to me that this is the things that R. Kelly has been facing. And these men, these inmates are saying, we want court dates. We want court dates. We want court dates. And they do have a right to ask for court dates, and they have a right to speak up when their civil rights is being violated. And I'm glad, shout out to Miss Deputy District Deputy Worse. Shout out to her. Shout out to her supervisor. Shout out to them for trying to do the right thing. Shout out to them for bringing up, these issues. And shout out to Ms. For the deputy district defender for including the judge in on that. Shout out to her. That was a smart move. Include somebody else in it. CC somebody else. Good. Because these things need to be brought up, and we need to have people in office that are going to do the right thing, and they're going to stand up because they took an oath. They took an oath to serve. They took an oath that they're not going to be biased, and they're going to do the right thing, and they're going to follow the laws. And it seems like we have a lot of, people getting voted in office. It's been going on for years. We know that, but voted in office. And now we can truly see the blatant injustice that's really, really going on. We saw it, but now we can truly see it, because you do have people that are ethical, that do care about other people, no matter what crime they're facing. Because again, when you are charged with something, you still should be given the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. And even with that being said, some people are proven guilty when they are truly innocent. We've seen that a lot too. So it's really good to bring these, to bring out these articles and talk about it. And I truly believe that justice is just not holding a man indefinitely in jail. You got to do something. That saying that they say, get off the pot, go ahead and do your business and get off the pot. Some people say it another way, but do your business and get off the pot. And if you're not going to get off the potty, then move on so somebody else can use the potty. But don't sit here and continue to violate these inmate rights because you got another agenda, which is probably an unethical agenda going on. It's personal a lot of times, and people don't have love in their heart. You're seeing that a lot of people don't have love in their heart. They have hate in their heart. It's like, it's like sometimes it's not a race issue, but a heart issue, a hate issue in your heart. You have a heart issue. And when you start examining some of these people's hearts, God, I wonder what God is saying. Because you don't want to treat people like humans. God don't love them any less than that he loves you. That's the thing about that people need to understand. God loves us all equally. He don't love me less because of the color of my skin. And he doesn't love somebody else less because they committed a crime. Does he hate the sin? Yeah. But he still loves them, and he's hoping that they have restoration. He's hoping that they turn away from sin. And that's what our prayer should be, is that these people that are committing crimes, that they turn away from that lifestyle. But we can't say what's going on, because like with this one inmate, he needs mental health. And a lot of times children have suffered traumas and they don't get the mental help that they need. They don't get therapy and counseling, and they should. They should get therapy and counseling when they suffer traumas. It shouldn't be brushed up under the rug. I wonder how many people are suffering PTSD and bipolar because they didn't get the counseling and treatment that they should have gotten as a young child, and things start happening in their adulthood. So if you know that a person needs mental health, then they need to make sure that that inmate is getting mental health, getting the services that they need. It doesn't mean that they're not entitled to services. People are entitled to rehab. I mean, when you see how they arrest black men a lot of times and black women, they don't care. They're treated so bad, but yet and still they'll take a white suspect to McDonald's or Burger King or wherever, Wendy's, get them a drink. Would you like a drink of water? Are you thirsty? Things like that. I mean, let's just keep it real. We need to speak out more about this stuff, because it's just, it's just ridiculous, and it's wrong. It's wrong on every level. And then it says, these are real people who have been staring at the same four walls of the same tiny cell for months, verse says. And when they hear over and over again that the associate judges aren't making the prosecutor show a shred of evidence to justify keeping them there in violation of the rules, of course they get desperate. Can you believe that? I know you can. When the associate judges aren't making the prosecutors show a shred of evidence to justify keeping them there. This right here, that's very profound. It's in violation. And this is in the state of Missouri. So Illinois, you would have to look at the laws there in Illinois. But the thing is that it just reminds me of the R. Kelly case, and it reminds me of the Deshaun Watson case, where they were trying not, they don't want to show evidence. They just want to come out and say it happened. And what about evidence? The TI thing. What about evidence? Come on, what about evidence? Shouldn't, if a woman is claiming that she was sexually assaulted in some kind of way, shouldn't there be some type of evidence? I know if I was sexually assaulted in this day and age, and they reached out to me, the perpetrator or alleged perpetrator, I would make sure, or vice versa, but I would make sure I keep text messages and emails. It's important to do that. And, you know, and if it was me, I would make sure that if I was truly, assaulted, I would try to get them to, either they're going to apologize or I'm going to talk about and tell them what they did. And I was very uncomfortable, or you did this to me. I don't understand, if that's the case. And if it's rape, why didn't you go to the hospital? Why didn't you go to the police department, to file a report? But if you're in the hospital and you say that you've been raped, they're going to do a rape kit and they will call the authorities to interview the accuser. So it's just so many things that's going on. And these associate judges aren't making the prosecution do the right thing. And the prosecution does need to do the right thing. They took an oath. They took an oath to do what's right. They took an oath. And they need to do what's right and start following these laws that are in place, because just because you are accused of something doesn't mean that you don't have rights anymore. And so again, like I said, it just reminded me of what R. Kelly has been facing the last couple of years. And when I read this article, I was like, wow, it really made me think about what he's been facing. Right away, I knew it wasn't something that I needed to pond over, a long time to figure this out, in this article. These are real people. R. Kelly's a real person, and the associate judges aren't making the prosecutor show any shred of evidence to justify keeping them there. Like, why they're losing everything, their livelihood, like they don't deserve to have a life outside of prison. Again, the presumption of innocence is for all American citizens, for all. But we just see that it's just been violated so much. And so my prayers go out to all inmates that are facing injustice. All inmates that are facing injustice. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you all.